Have you ever wondered how much of the success of those media-hyped stock gurus and business prodigies is due to genuine ability, and how much is pure luck? Why are we so quick to believe the experiences shared by successful people, yet often overlook the thousands of failures behind them? Why is our brain inherently bad at understanding probability, constantly leading us to irrational decisions at critical moments? If you've ever been troubled by these questions, then today we'll dive deep into a classic book that can upend your perceptions, Nassim Taleb's Fooled by Randomness. Stick with this video, and you'll gain an entirely new framework for examining uncertainty in markets and life. You'll learn to clearly distinguish between true ability and random luck, avoiding confusion caused by superficial success, how to identify and overcome cognitive biases that repeatedly lead us into traps, how to build a more risk-resistant life and investment strategy, and how to not just survive, but seize rare opportunities in a world full of black swans. This isn't just a book-sharing session, it's a mental upgrade. We all crave success and admire successful people, but Taleb opens with a soul-stirring question. How much of the success you see is genuine ability, and how much is mere luck that could be taken away at any moment? To clarify this, he introduces two trader neighbors we'll call life winner, John, and conservative, Taleb. Note, the name here differs from the author for storytelling. Life winner, John has an aggressive style with outstanding performance, driving luxury cars and living in a mansion, everyone's idea of a prodigy. His strategy uses high leverage to earn seemingly steady small profits, which made him wealthy during several calm years. Conservative, Taleb, by contrast, has an extreme aversion to risk, preferring to earn less rather than expose himself to potentially ruinous risks. Next to stars like John, Taleb seems dull, almost pathetic. Now, the question: on one side, a star performer with stunning returns, on the other, a timid player with modest gains. If you were the boss, who would you entrust with more money? If you were an observer, who would you envy more? For most people, the answer seems obvious. But this is precisely the trap Taleb wants us to beware of. The story ends with a sudden market crisis. In the crisis, John's perfect strategy collapsed instantly. He lost all profits from previous years in days, saddled the company with huge debts, and was ultimately, humiliatingly fired. Meanwhile, the loser Taleb, who had been guarding against such extreme risks, not only survived unscathed but might even have profited from the chaos. This story succinctly reveals one of the book's core insights. In a world full of randomness, short-term success is highly deceptive. We too easily equate someone who performs well in a specific period with someone of extraordinary ability. John's success didn't come from predicting the future. His aggressive style simply over-adapted to the previous years of stable markets. His success was a randomness experience card with a limit and expiration date. Once market conditions changed, his fate took a sharp turn. Taleb uses a more vivid metaphor for people like John. They're like picking up coins in front of a steamroller. Each successful coin pickup boosts their confidence, making them think they're highly skilled. What they don't see is that one steamroller crush would take back all previous profits with interest, even cost them their lives. So the first and most important reminder from this book is that when judging a success story, we can't just look at the result, we must examine the quality and path of that success. Did they reach today by treading carefully, always preparing for extreme risks? Or were they just lucky, betting on the right direction, with the steamroller that could crush them still approaching? Failing to distinguish these makes us easy prey to randomness, blindly admiring luck-driven pseudo-winners and trying to imitate their risky success formulas, ultimately putting ourselves in danger. So what exactly is this steamroller that can instantly destroy everything, turning stars into clowns? Why is it so mysterious yet powerful? Taleb gave these unpredictable yet world-altering events a name we're all familiar with today, and that name is the core we'll explore next. In the previous section, we discussed what that steamroller was that instantly crushed life winner John. Why can it render all seemingly perfect strategies and past successful experiences worthless? Taleb gave this disruptive force a special name. You've certainly heard it, black swan. The term's origin is simple. Before Australia's discovery, Europeans observed swans for millennia, all the white. They thus concluded, seemingly absolute truth, all swans are white. This was perfectly verified in millions of observations until explorers saw a black swan in Australia. Note, not 100, not 10, just one black swan was enough to overturn centuries of accumulated correct experience. If that example isn't striking enough, Taleb tells a more poignant metaphor we can call the turkey's tragedy. Imagine you're a farm turkey, a very intelligent one, good at observing and summarizing. From your first day, you notice a tall, friendly two-legged creature brings delicious food every morning at 9, rain or shine. As an empiricist, you collect data daily, which reinforces your core belief: this human loves me, my life will get better. Your confidence grows. You even give speeches to fellow turkeys, using 1,000 days of data to accurately predict food will arrive promptly at 9 tomorrow. However, on day 1001, Thanksgiving, the feeding hand reaches over, and this time, it wrings your neck. To the turkey, its death was a completely unpredictable, disruptive surprise, but to the butcher, it was part of the plan. From these stories, we can extract 3 core features of such events. First, they're extremely rare, entirely outside your past experience. A black swan, a turkey's unprecedented last meal. Second, when they occur, they have enormous impact, altering game rules, ending a turkey's life, disrupting an industry, even changing world order. Third, they are predictable only in hindsight. Afterward, experts will analyze them confidently, as if they predicted it all, but beforehand, most of us, like that confident turkey, are unaware of impending disaster. Now we understand why John's failure was inevitable. He was the most successful turkey. He relied on years of stable market data to reinforce his belief in steady profits, even arming himself with complex mathematical models to prove it. But he never considered that the stable environment he depended on was temporary, forgetting that butcher, who made the rules, could change their mind anytime. The world we live in is actually shaped by repeated black swan events. The 2008 financial crisis was Wall Street's black swan. The world's top financial minds, using Nobel laureate-invented models, widely believed real estate-based financial products were safe, yet the subprime crisis erupted and instantly brought the entire system to collapse, with countless people's wealth vanishing. Analyzing 50 years of housing prices wouldn't predict that crisis. All such events share one thing: you can't predict them with historical data. The turkey's mistake wasn't lack of intelligence, it overtrusted its limited experience. We humans do the same. We tend to think the future is just an extension of the past, ignoring black swans that could overturn everything. Taleb didn't propose this theory to teach us fortune-telling, to guess where the next black swan is. On the contrary, its core idea is that black swans are unpredictable. What's the use of acknowledging this? Immense. It frees us from an unhealthy obsession with precise prediction, making us think more fundamentally. Since the future is unknowable, since devastating blows can come anytime, how should we structure our lives, perspectives, and investments to not just survive black swans, but profit from them? We shouldn't try to be better data, better model turkeys. We should avoid being turkeys to be slaughtered in the first place. But given history's painful lessons, why do most of us repeatedly fall into the same trap, unconsciously playing the turkey's role? Behind this lies a deeper cognitive bias in our brains, one nearly impossible to overcome with willpower. This bias is the huge trap we'll reveal next, the one that makes us see only winners, never the countless bodies behind them. In the previous section, we discussed black swans, rare events that can instantly overturn everything. Given history's painful lessons, Why do most of us repeatedly fall into the same trap, oblivious to impending danger like that turkey? Taleb tells us it's because our cognitive system has a more common, hidden trap than black swans, one constantly distorting our view of the world: survivorship bias. This sounds academic, but Taleb explained it vividly with monkeys at typewriters. Imagine placing countless monkeys in front of countless typewriters, letting them peck randomly day and night. With enough monkeys and time, probability dictates one monkey would, purely by luck, type Shakespeare's Hamlet word perfect. Media would swarm, spotlighting this genius monkey, analyzing its upbringing and diet, idolizing it. The world would marvel at its talent. But we'd never see the countless monkeys that typed gibberish, unknown or dead. We see just one successful survivor, ignoring the disproportionately large group of failures. Thus we draw an absurd conclusion: monkeys can become great writers with effort. This is survivorship bias essence. Failures are silent, their stories unheard or forgotten, while successes are amplified, studied, imitated. This makes us drastically overestimate success probabilities and misunderstand success causes. Taleb gave a more relatable scam example, a perfect application of survivorship bias. A scammer wants you to believe he's a stock god. How? He gets 10,000 names, sending half a letter predicting next month's market will rise, the other half predicting a fall. A month later, the market will prove half right, half wrong. He stops contacting the 5,000 who got wrong predictions, repeating the process only with the 5,000 who witnessed super accurate predictions. A month later, half are eliminated, leaving 2,500. Repeating this for months, hundreds remain. To these hundreds, the scammer seems godlike, accurately predicting market moves 5 or 6 times. Then he invites them to join a costly VIP investment group. Would people willingly pay? See, the scammer predicted nothing. He used statistical screening, making surviving you mistake his success for ability. Our world is like a giant stage crafted by this scammer. Media, bestsellers, and commercials act as filters, constantly pushing survivors before us while hiding failures. Nowhere is this more typical than entrepreneurship. We often hear school is useless. Look at Bill Gates and Zuckerberg, dropping out to become world billionaires. This is sensational, but a classic survivorship bias fallacy. We see a few successful dropouts, completely ignoring thousands who dropped out to start businesses only to fail miserably or live in poverty. Their stories go unreported. They have no voice. Investing is worse. Opening any finance app shows fund recommendations, always highlighting those top performing in the past year or 3. Ads shout they beat 99% of peers, but never mention how many funds were liquidated or died due to poor performance. You only see the luckiest survivors. Following these filtered results is like receiving the scammer's 6th letter. Thus, we must build a mental correction mechanism. Seeing a dazzling success story, we should subconsciously ask, for this one success, how many invisible failures might lie behind? 9. 99. 9,999. The denominator's size determines success value. A huge denominator means success is likely a survivorship bias product, a randomness joke with little reference or replication value. Recognizing survivorship bias is our first step in piercing success illusion. But why is our brain so easily fooled by it? Why do we believe the genius monkey story over cold failure probabilities? This isn't just about information filtering, it touches our brain's deepest mechanisms. Our brains seem inherently bad at processing probability. We're all probability blind. Why? What system bugs hide in our brains? That's what we'll explore next. Why is our brain so easily tricked? Why does a genius monkey legend move us more than cold statistics? Taleb's answer is both harsh and profound. our brains came with a huge system bug. We're innately probability blind. This isn't calling us stupid, it's stating an evolutionary psychology fact. We must consider, in what environment did our brains evolve into their current form? Not today's information explosion, but the savannas tens of thousands of years ago. Survival was paramount then. Our ancestors needed quick, intuitive judgments, not slow probability calculations. Hearing rustling in grass, you didn't calculate odds of wind versus lion, you ran. Ancestors who overthought and ran slow had their genes eliminated. Thus our brains naturally seek simple, direct cause-effect links. This fast-thinking system worked in ancient times, but became a huge problem in modern society requiring complex probability processing. Harvard psychologist B.F. Skinner did a classic experiment demonstrating this tendency to create false causality. He confined a hungry pigeon in a cage, randomly feeding it. What happened? The pigeon developed bizarre superstitious behaviors. Some spun counterclockwise, others pecked specific cage corners. Why? It might have been doing these actions when food arrived. In its simple mind, it forced a causal link between spinning and food, two unrelated events. We might laugh at the pigeon, but aren't we similar? A gambler winning in red underwear will likely wear them again. A trader profiting after entering through a specific door will likely use it again. This is our inner pigeon, always seeking comfort in randomness. While small superstitions are harmless, probability blindness can be fatal in major decisions. Let's test you with a question Taleb mentioned, one given to professional doctors. Pause to calculate. Suppose a disease's true prevalence is 1 per thousand, 0.1%, and its test has a 5% false positive rate, wrongly judging 5% healthy people are sick. You get a random checkup with a positive result. What's your real probability of having the disease? 95%. You're in good company with most doctors, but that's wrong. The correct answer is about 2%. Why? Let's simplify. Assume 1,000 people get tested. With 1 per thousand prevalence, (1) is truly sick, testing positive. The remaining 999 are healthy, but with 5% false positives, 50 test positive. Total positives, 1 real plus 50 false equals 51. Your chance is 1/51, almost equal to 2%. Shocking. Even doctors working with life or death data make serious probability errors, let alone us. How many times have we made wrong judgments based on seemingly conclusive evidence, paying unnecessary costs? This is probability blindness power with 3 negative effects. 1. Confusing emotion with probability. Why fear flying, but not far more dangerous roads? Plane crash images are emotionally overwhelming, making us ignore their rarity. 2. Overestimating small probabilities' positive impact. Why buy lottery tickets despite slimmer odds than being struck by lightning? Our brains easily imagine jackpot wealth, but can't grasp the tiny non-winning probability. 3. Seeking patterns in randomness. In stocks, we too easily trust rumors or market feel over rational position management and risk control. This is our inner pigeon, seeking definite causality in random market noise. Thus Taleb tells us, we're emotional animals first, rational ones second. Trying to force absolute rationality with willpower is as futile as controlling heartbeat with thoughts. It's anti-human. So with such innate brain flaws, are we doomed to repeat randomness errors being exploited? Not necessarily. Taleb argues masters aren't masters because they fixed brain bugs impossible, but because they know to bypass them. They use an entirely different decision framework, shifting focus from how likely is this to happen to a more important question. This mental leap is our next core, the decision divide between ordinary people and true sages. In the previous section, we discussed our innate probability blindness. This system bug sounds despairing. Are we doomed to be randomness playthings? Fear not. Taleb tells us true wisdom isn't fighting our nature, that's self-sabotage. They choose another path, bypassing this bug with a new decision framework centered on a mind-opening concept, asymmetry. Asymmetry sounds esoteric, but it's simple. Let's set a scenario, you'll get it. Suppose I offer a money-making opportunity. Game rules: 99.9% chance you win $1 from me, 0.1% chance you lose $10,000 to me. 99% plus win rate, winning every time. Sounds tempting. But something feels off. That tiny what if with catastrophic consequences. Simple math shows this is a losing game. One what if erases all previous small gains. This simple choice reveals a huge mental gap between ordinary people and masters. Ordinary people focus on win rate. How likely am I to win? Masters focus on odds. How much do I gain if I win, lose if I lose? Taleb once shocked people. In a meeting, asked to predict markets, he said, "I think there's a 70% chance markets will rise next week." Everyone expected him to buy, but he heavily bet on a fall, stunning everyone. Contradictory. This is the master-ordinary divide. Taleb's logic: 70% chance of rising, but maybe just 1%. That 30% chance of falling. Maybe a 10% crash. More wins, but one big loss erases all gains, net loss. Thus, he teaches a disruptive truth. How likely something is, and whether it's worth your bet, are completely different. We have been bound by a win-rate mindset since childhood. At school, we strive for high scores in every subject. At work, we pursue perfection in every project. We fear failure and crave being right every time. But in the real world, especially in uncertain fields like investing and entrepreneurship, the win-rate mindset is precisely the biggest trap. Think about it. Who masters this asymmetric game most skillfully? It's those venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. They're like sowing seeds, investing in dozens of new companies at once, fully aware that most of these seeds will die and their money will go down the drain. They don't care about a failure rate of over 90%. What are they betting on? They are betting that as long as one seed grows into a towering tree, like the next TikTok or the next Pinduoduo, the returns from that single project will be 10,000 times more than all the failed seeds combined. They use countless controlled small failures to chase one huge success with immeasurable gains. This is maximizing positive asymmetry. So what Taleb really wants to teach us is the wisdom of decision-making. From today on, whenever making important decisions, whether investing, job hopping, or starting a business, we must ask ourselves two questions. First, if this goes wrong, what's the worst-case scenario? Can I afford the loss? Second, if this succeeds, what's the best possible outcome? How big could the gains be? An ideal decision should be like venture capital. You won't regret the loss, but you'll celebrate the gain. In other words, the downside risk is limited and controllable, while the upside potential is huge, even unlimited. Such opportunities are worth trying, even if the success rate is only 1%. Conversely, opportunities that are like picking up coins in front of a steamroller, with limited gains, but catastrophic consequences if things go wrong, should be avoided, even if the success rate is 99%. Okay, now our minds are open, and we know to look for such asymmetric opportunities. But a new problem arises. The world is so complex, filled with information and data that seem to present opportunities everywhere. How do we distinguish real opportunities from false signals that look appealing but are actually worthless? How can we develop a discerning eye to find gold in a pile of data garbage? This is what we'll address in the next section. We know the world is full of surprises and that our brains have flaws. But there's another trap we encounter almost daily, especially in this era of big data: the urge to find a surefire formula for predicting the future from messy data. Taleb calls this data mining. We can call it the coincidence trap. Simply put, more data means more coincidences. If you keep trying, you can always find a seemingly perfect pattern in past data. For example, stocks with Mao in their names have surged every March for the past decade. But such patterns are often just coincidences, useless for predicting the future. In massive datasets, you can always find evidence to support any absurd conclusion. We easily fall into this trap because our brains innately crave order and constantly seek explanations for random events. So what should we do? How can we avoid being fooled by these false patterns and develop an eye for seeing through coincidences? Taleb offers a powerful set of mental tools in his book, which can be summarized as 3 principles. The first principle, and the core one: formulate ideas first, then seek evidence, not fabricate ideas based on evidence. This is the dividing line between scientific thinking and pseudoscientific thinking. A true thinker first proposes bold hypotheses based on logic and reasoning. For example, I believe new energy vehicles are the future because the energy structure is undergoing fundamental changes, and company A's technical route has the most potential. They develop such a theory first, then seek various data and facts to test or even disprove it. Those caught in the coincidence trap do the opposite. They dive into data without any theory, flailing around like headless chickens until they find a coincidence, such as I've discovered that company A's stock price and country B's economic indicators are closely correlated. B's wheat production have followed the same trend for the past 5 years, then fabricate a plausible theory to explain this coincidence. Patterns derived by working backward from results are often fragile and easily shattered. So next time you encounter a striking pattern, ask yourself, is this pattern a validation of a theory or just a coincidence? The second principle is more powerful and counterintuitive. Instead of trying to prove you're right, strive to find evidence that you might be wrong. This is the essence of philosopher Karl Popper's thinking, which Taleb highly advocates. A truly intelligent person, after reaching a conclusion, doesn't smugly seek supporting arguments for psychological comfort. On the contrary, they immediately switch roles, becoming their own harshest critic to attack the conclusion. They actively ask, under what circumstances could my idea be wrong? Is there a counterexample, even just one, that could overturn all my theories? Legendary investor George Soros does this. His strength lies not in never being wrong, but in recognizing and correcting mistakes faster than anyone else, even reversing his position. He avoids mental friction because his self-worth doesn't depend on being always right. This principle requires great intellectual honesty and courage. After buying a stock, actively read bearish research reports. When convinced a business model works, study cases where similar models failed. This habit of actively seeking falsification helps you spot cognitive blind spots and risks earlier than others. The third principle: expand your perspective to be broad and long-term. The coincidence trap often arises because our vision is limited to a small slice of current data. Studying only the past decade of China's A-share market might lead you to conclude that core assets will always rise. But examining Japan's lost 30 years or America's Great Depression will fill you with awe for the word always. Taleb repeatedly reminds us that history's greatest value isn't providing a repeatable script to follow, but constantly reminding us that what never happened in the past might happen in the future. It uses countless black swan examples to expand our imagination of world possibilities. So don't fixate on your small slice of data. Look at more ups and downs from longer time frames and broader spaces that you've never heard of. The more you see, the more you'll realize that many patterns you now believe in are likely fragile coincidences of specific times and places. Okay, we've learned to interpret the world more clearly and avoid brain and data traps. But even with the most scientific mindset, can we be sure of success? Not necessarily, because the world's operating rules themselves may be unfair. It contains a mechanism that can turn trivial luck into vastly different outcomes like a snowball. Why is the world often a winner-takes-all scenario? This is the secret of the world's non-linearity we'll explore next. In previous sections, we discussed various brain flaws. We only see survivors, we're innately bad at understanding probability, and we love seeking patterns in randomness. These are issues with how we interact with the world. But could it be that the world's operating rules themselves aren't as fair and linear as we imagine? Why is the world often winner-takes-all rather than fair competition with benefits for all? Taleb explains this with one word: non-linearity. What is non-linearity? Simply put, 1 + 1 does not equal 2. In the linear world we're accustomed to, 1 unit of effort brings 1 unit of reward. Doubling your effort doubles your achievement. But the real world is often different. Sometimes 99% effort yields nothing, while the final 1%, trivial effort, or pure chance, brings earth-shattering results. The book uses a vivid sand pile effect metaphor. Piling sand grain by grain, the sand pile remains stable for a long time, growing slightly with each grain. But there's always a critical point. When you add the final grain, the entire sand pile collapses instantly under the strain. Is the last straw really what breaks the camel's back? Of course not. It's the cumulative pressure of all previous straws. But the final collapse, a qualitative change, is triggered by that last grain or straw, a trivial variable. This disproportionate relationship between input and output is nonlinearity. This unfair rule also manifests in a more familiar phenomenon called path dependence. Taleb mentions something we use daily, the computer keyboard. Have you ever wondered why the first row of letters is the strange QWERTY arrangement? This layout is known to be the least efficient, significantly slowing typing speed. So why do we still use it? The reason dates back over a century. Old typewriters deliberately separated common letters to slow typing and prevent mechanical arms from jamming. Later, more scientific, efficient layouts emerged, but they were useless. Everyone was already accustomed to the worst layout, making learning and switching costs too high. Thus, this least fit design, which initially captured the market by chance, ended up winning, creating strong path dependence. The internet has magnified the power of nonlinearity and path dependence countless times in our era, resulting in a cruel winner-takes-all situation. The most typical examples are social software and operating systems we use daily. Why do we all use WeChat? Is it technically 100 times better than other chat apps? Not necessarily. The fundamental reason is that all your relatives, friends, colleagues, and clients use it. The more people use a product, the greater its value and the more new users it attracts. Once this positive feedback or snowball effect starts, the leader captures almost the entire market, leaving latecomers. Even with better technology, there's little chance of turning the tide. Microsoft's Bill Gates and his Windows system became tech giants through this effect. You see, in this winner-takes-all world, success often depends not on being 10% or 20% better than others, but on being lucky enough to gain a trivial initial advantage that triggers the snowball effect. This could be a chance opportunity, a key connection, or even entering the market half a step earlier. In a non-linear world, this tiny difference eventually amplifies into a vast gap. This is alarming. It means ability may play a smaller role in huge successes than we think, while luck and initial position, random factors, may play a larger role. Okay, our brains deceive us, and the world's rules amplify luck, making success extremely unfair. All this suggests our past experiences and observations may be unreliable. This raises an ultimate question that has puzzled philosophers for centuries. In a world so random and history so full of accidents, can we trust any patterns summarized from the past? Can we learn from history? This is the philosophical cornerstone of the book, The Problem of Induction, which will completely reshape how we view knowledge and experience. We've been taught since childhood that a fall into the pit, a gain in your wit, that summarizing experience leads to success. Experience seems our most precious asset, but Taleb tells us experience can also be our most dangerous trap. Behind this is the book's philosophical cornerstone, The Problem of Induction. The term sounds complicated, but we're already familiar with its meaning. Remember the smart turkey. It's a reflection of each of us. Using 1,000 days of historical data, it concluded, "My owner loves me and will feed me daily." Its experience was rich. The data perfectly supported its conclusion. But what happened? On Thanksgiving, all its successful experiences became a death warrant leading it to the dinner table. This is induction's fragility. No number of repeated verifications can guarantee no accidents, and just one accident can overturn all past experience. The great philosopher Karl Popper turned this idea into a powerful mental tool. He tells us, what's the difference between a truly intelligent person and a stubborn fool? A stubborn fool tries to prove they're right, while a truly intelligent person strives to find evidence they might be wrong. A scientific theory is scientific not because it's always correct, but because it clearly states under what circumstances this theory is wrong. It allows for falsification. Pseudosciences like fortune-telling and horoscopes can never be proven wrong. They can explain anything. In the real world, legendary investor George Soros best embodies this philosophy. What makes Soros great is his lack of concern for saving face. He treats each investment as a hypothesis to be tested by the market, not a personal opinion to defend. Once the market, with real money, tells him you're wrong, he exits faster than anyone, even without hesitation, shorting what he favored yesterday. This ability to calmly admit and quickly correct mistakes is the highest form of wisdom. For most of us, our biggest enemy is often our own past successes. Think about your life. Aren't you often limited by your successful experiences? Someone who succeeded in one field with a certain method tries to apply it everywhere, only to hit walls. Someone with smooth past relationships assumes the future will be the same, blind to emerging crises. Thus, Taleb doesn't want us to completely abandon history and experience, but to use them differently. Experience isn't useless. It defines the boundaries of our knowledge. What we must always be wary of is the unknown beyond those boundaries. Don't use history to find comforting patterns that prove your correctness. Instead, be like a relentless skeptic, using history to find low-probability counterexamples that challenge or even overturn your current beliefs. Ask yourself, has anything in history contradicted my current thinking? Only by viewing the past with such cautious doubt can you maintain true humility and vigilance toward the future. Okay, our intellectual journey seems to have reached a disturbing point. The world has unfair rules and is full of black swans. Our brains have flaws. Even our most precious experiences and history may be huge traps. It seems we're living unarmed in a minefield. What can we hold on to? Is there a path to walk with more confidence? Taleb says this path lies within us. It's a choice, an attitude, a dignity that doesn't bow to randomness. This is the ultimate answer we'll seek in the final section. How to live with dignity in a random world. Friends, our intellectual journey seems to have reached a dead end. If everything is so unreliable, what should we do? Are we like leaves in the wind, subject to randomness and fate? No, Taleb says, it's precisely after acknowledging these harsh truths that we find a truly powerful way to survive. This path doesn't seek to predict the future, but to build resilience. It doesn't seek to overcome luck, but to coexist with it. This wisdom comes from ancient Rome over 2,000 years ago, an old philosophy called Stoicism. Stoicism sounds profound, but its core idea is simple. We can't control the cards fate deals us, but we can and must control how we play them, maintaining inner order and grace even in the worst luck. Randomness can take away your wealth, health, and status, but the one thing it can never take is your choice of how to face it all. So how do we apply this to ordinary life? The book summarizes several practical guidelines. First, completely separate process from outcome. Stop defining yourself by single successes or failures. Making money on an investment doesn't necessarily mean you have keen insight, it might just be luck. A failed business doesn't necessarily mean you lack ability, it might have been a black swan. Focus 100% on the process. Is your decision logic rigorous? Did you consider asymmetry? Is your risk control sound? As long as the process is rational and high quality, don't be hard on yourself even if the outcome is poor. This frees you from the emotional roller coaster of results. Second, adopt a barbell strategy for life. Imagine a barbell, heavy at both ends, empty in the middle. Taleb advocates such a strategy. Put most of your resources, say 90% of your money, in extremely safe places that black swans can't destroy, like government bonds, cash, or an extremely stable job. Then take the remaining small portion, say 10%, to boldly invest in high-risk, high-reward projects with huge positive asymmetry. The worst-case scenario is losing that insignificant 10%, but the best-case scenario could be hundreds or thousands of times returns from that 10%. This lets you enjoy stability while not missing huge opportunities from black swans, completely avoiding putting all eggs in one seemingly safe but fragile basket. Third, set preset stop-loss points for life's key decisions. Like a professional trader, before making a major decision, clearly ask, under what circumstances would my initial judgment be proven wrong? Once that happens, I must exit unconditionally and admit failure. This is crucial for unsuitable careers, draining relationships, or uncertain investments. It prevents you from sinking too much sunk cost into a wrong direction, becoming trapped. Fourth, and most importantly, maintain dignity. This is our last weapon against meaninglessness and randomness. When misfortune strikes, you can choose to complain, rage, wallow in self-pity, and blame the world. Or you can choose to bear it gracefully like a hero, dust yourself off, and move forward. When your investments lose money, be kinder to your family. When your career hits a setback, don't take it out on your subordinates. Fortune may decide your wins and losses, but only you decide your attitude. Okay, our in-depth reading of Fooled by Randomness is drawing to a close. This book ruthlessly shatters our illusions about success, rationality, and prediction, but its ultimate message isn't pessimism, it's clear-eyed optimism. It frees us from the naive fantasy of a predictable world, allowing us to focus our precious energy on the only thing we can control, ourselves. Truly understanding this, we're no longer fools deceived by randomness, but clear-headed, free navigators in the stormy seas of uncertainty. Thank you for watching. See you in the next book.